story. Roman Ferguson methodically arranged the sterling silver photo frames on his daughter's dresser, each containing a moment frozen in time. Kara's first day of kindergarten, her high school graduation, her acceptance into the architectural program at Northwestern. At 54, his salt and pepper hair and stern features reflected decades of uncompromising business decisions that had transformed Ferguson Construction from a modest contracting company into Chicago's premier luxury development firm. "You're making that face again," his wife Brenda observed from the doorway. She'd made that same observation countless times over their 28 years of marriage, usually when he was reviewing contract proposals or addressing project failures. "What face?" Roman continued organizing the photos, his movements precise and deliberate. "That ruthlessly honest face." Brenda stepped into the room, her designer heels clicking against the floor. "The one that makes board members squirm and contractors triple-check their work." Roman allowed himself a small smile. Ruthlessly honest. It wasn't just a description. It was his brand, his legacy. The phrase had followed him through countless business deals, through the recession when other developers cut corners and failed, through the boom years when competitors inflated prices and he maintained fair market rates. "The florist needs your approval for the centerpieces," Brenda said, her voice carrying an unfamiliar tremor. She stood near the doorway, fingers fidgeting with her pearl necklace, his anniversary gift from 5 years ago. Roman turned to face her fully, noting how she wouldn't meet his eyes. 28 years of marriage had taught him to read her like the blueprints he reviewed daily. The slight shake in her hands, the way she shifted her weight from one foot to another. These weren't the actions of his typically confident wife. "Of course," he replied, maintaining his composure. "I'll be down shortly." Brenda hurried away, her retreat too quick to be casual. Roman picked up another photo, this one of Kara and her fiancé, Jared Cantu, at their engagement party 6 months ago. Jared's $1 million smile and innovative sustainable housing projects had impressed everyone, including Roman himself. He'd even partnered with the young developer on several projects, seeing in Jared a reflection of his own early ambition. Roman set the photo down with deliberate care. The signs had been accumulating like change orders on a troubled project. Brenda's late-night phone calls that ended abruptly when he entered the room, her mysterious appointments that never appeared in her usually meticulous calendar, her sudden interest in reviewing construction sites with Jared. He'd ignored them all, choosing to trust the woman who'd stood beside him as he built his empire. That trust had died last night. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Ferguson?" His assistant, Maria, stood in the doorway. "The event planner needs to review the seating arrangements for tonight's rehearsal dinner. Tell her I'll be there in 5 minutes," Roman replied, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. Maria hesitated. "Also, sir, Mr. Fox called again. He says it's urgent." "It always is with Elias," Roman said, though he knew this time was different. His project manager's voice had carried an edge he'd never heard before. "Tell him I'll call him back." After Maria left, Roman looked around the room one last time. The space still held echoes of Kara's childhood, her first architectural drawings pinned to a bulletin board, academic awards lined up on shelves, photos capturing her transformation from a pigtailed little girl to the accomplished architect she'd become. His phone buzzed, another message from Jared about their latest joint venture, Highland Towers. The young man's enthusiasm practically leaped off the screen. "Can't wait to show you the updated sustainability metrics, Dad. This project will revolutionize green construction in Chicago." Roman's jaw tightened at the presumptuous use of Dad. He typed a brief, professional response, maintaining the facade of the proud future father-in-law. The rehearsal dinner was 12 hours away. Until then, he would play his part perfectly. A text from Brenda lit up his screen. "Don't forget we're meeting the wedding planner at 2. Jared has some amazing ideas for the ceremony." Roman deleted the message without responding. Amazing ideas? Like the ones they discussed during their private meetings in the model units at Highland Towers? Like the schemes they plotted in hotel rooms while he reviewed project proposals? He pulled out his phone and dialed Elias Fox's number. His project manager answered on the first ring. "Sir, thank you for calling back. We need to talk. It's about Highland Towers and Mr. Cantu." "My office." "1 hour," Roman replied, his voice carrying the same tone that had earned him his reputation for ruthless honesty. "Bring everything you have." He ended the call and took one last look at the photos of his family. By this time tomorrow, some of these frames would be face down. Others would be shattered entirely. Roman straightened his tie and headed downstairs to discuss flower arrangements with his wife of 28 years, the woman who thought she could deceive a man who'd built an empire on spotting lies in the finest print. He would smile, nod, and agree to whatever overpriced centerpieces she'd chosen. After all, every great construction project required proper staging before demolition could begin. Elias Fox's hands trembled as he arranged documents across Roman Ferguson's mahogany desk. At 35, the project manager had overseen dozens of multi-million-dollar developments, but he'd never faced a task as daunting as this one. "Start from the beginning," Roman commanded from behind his desk, his expression unreadable. Every detail. Elias pulled out a thick folder labeled Highland Towers, Financial Discrepancies. He'd spent weeks compiling its contents, each discovery more damning than the last. It started with the concrete suppliers. Elias began, spreading out invoices and delivery receipts. "The numbers didn't match our approved budget. At first, I thought it was a clerical error." Roman picked up an invoice, his eyes scanning the figures with practiced efficiency. "These rates are 30% above market value." "Yes, sir. But here's where it gets interesting." Elias pulled out another set of documents. "These are the actual payments made to the supplier. They're receiving standard rates. The difference is being diverted through a shell company called Sustainable Solutions LLC. Jared's company." "One of them," Elias confirmed. "We've identified 3 others: Green Future Development, Eco-Built Partners, and Progressive Construction Solutions. All registered in different states, all linked to Mr. Cantu through various proxies." Roman's expression remained neutral, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of his desk. "Continue." Elias pulled out more papers, material specifications, inspection reports, testing results. "The sustainable materials Mr. Cantu promised? Many of them don't meet code requirements. He's been using substandard products and falsifying certification documents." "Show me." For the next 30 minutes, Elias laid out a complex web of fraud. Inflated costs, kickback schemes, forged certifications. Each revelation adding another crack to the foundation of trust Roman had placed in his future son-in-law. "There's more, sir," Elias said quietly, reaching for his laptop. "Something you need to see." He pulled up a video file, date stamped 3 days earlier. The security footage showed the interior of a model unit at Highland Towers. Brenda Ferguson entered first, followed shortly by Jared Cantu. Roman watched without comment as his wife embraced his daughter's fiancé. Their kiss was not one of greeting but of familiar passion. The timestamp showed they remained in the unit for 47 minutes. "That's not the only time," Elias said, his voice apologetic. "We have footage going back months. And there are documents." He played another clip, this one showing Brenda passing folders to Jared, both of them reviewing papers spread across a kitchen counter between intimate moments. Those files contain proprietary information about Ferguson Construction's upcoming projects, bid strategies, and client lists. Elias pulled out more evidence: photographs, email printouts, bank statements. Mrs. Ferguson has been providing Mr. Cantu with inside information. They're planning something bigger than just the Highland Towers fraud. Roman stood and walked to his office window, looking out over the Chicago skyline he'd helped shape. Several of his buildings stood as testament to his principles: no shortcuts, no compromises, no betrayals. "Sir?" Elias ventured after several minutes of silence. "There's one more thing you should know." Roman turned back to his desk. "Show me." Elias pulled up a series of text messages on his laptop. The exchanges between Brenda and Jared ranged from intimate to calculating. Roman suspects nothing. His precious principles make him blind. "Brenda, after the wedding, we'll have everything we need to take control. The old man won't know what hit him." "Jared, just think, in 6 months, Ferguson Construction will have new leadership. More progressive, more profitable." "Brenda, they're planning a hostile takeover," Elias explained unnecessarily. Using your daughter's wedding to gather investors and support, Roman returned to his chair, his movements controlled and deliberate. How long have you known? I discovered the financial discrepancies 3 weeks ago. The personal aspects became clear last week. I needed time to gather concrete evidence before coming to you. Who else knows? No one, sir. I haven't even told my wife. Roman nodded slowly. You've done well, Elias. Now, I need you to do something else for me. Anything, sir. Continue as normal. Monitor everything, document everything, but change nothing in your behavior or routine. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Elias hesitated. What about the Highland Towers project? Proceed according to schedule, but ensure every material delivery, every inspection, every document is photographed and logged. I want a paper trail that would satisfy the most demanding federal prosecutor. Elias began gathering his documents, but Roman held up a hand. Leave everything here. I'll need to review it in detail. As Elias turned to leave, Roman called out, Why did you bring this to me? The project manager turned back. Sir, you could have taken this to the authorities directly, or used it for blackmail. Why come to me? Elias straightened his shoulders. 8 years ago, when that supplier tried to bribe me to approve substandard materials, you backed my decision to report him, even though it delayed the project and cost us money. You said principles matter more than profits. I've never forgotten that. Roman nodded once, dismissing him. After Elias left, he picked up the photo of Jared and Kara from his desk, their engagement photo, taken in front of Highland Towers construction site. His daughter's smile radiated genuine joy. Jared's smile, he now realized, held something else entirely. He pressed the intercom button. Maria, get me Calvin Atkins from security. Then clear my schedule for the rest of the day. And when my wife calls about the wedding planner meeting, tell her I'm in an emergency project review. Yes, sir. Should I reschedule the meeting? No. Let her handle it with Jared. And Maria? Start gathering all documents related to Highland Towers and every other project we've done with Cantu Development. Everything. Roman began sorting through Elias's evidence, his mind already formulating plans. In construction, timing was everything. Demo crews, structural engineers, materials, all had to be coordinated perfectly for a successful demolition. This demolition would require the same precision. But instead of a building, he would be dismantling the elaborate facade his wife and future son-in-law had constructed. And like any controlled demolition, it had to be handled carefully to minimize collateral damage. His daughter's happiness was at stake, and Roman Ferguson had never failed to protect his investments. Calvin Atkins arrived at Roman's office exactly 17 minutes after being summoned, carrying a sleek laptop and an expression that suggested he already knew this wasn't a routine security consultation. Lock the door, Roman instructed, not looking up from the documents spread across his desk. Calvin complied, then took a seat without being asked. I need everything, Roman said, finally meeting his security chief's eyes. Phone records, emails, bank statements, surveillance footage. If they've so much as shared a grocery list, I want to know about it. Calvin didn't need to ask who they were. He'd worked for Roman for 15 years, and his network of contacts rivaled any private investigators. How far back? Start with the day Jared Cantu first walked into my office with his sustainable housing proposal. 18 months ago, Calvin opened his laptop and began typing. Mrs. Ferguson's devices? Everything. Personal and business. That might take some finesse. She's been using a secondary phone lately. Roman's jaw tightened. You knew? It's my job to know, sir. I flagged it as unusual activity, but had no concrete evidence of impropriety until now. Calvin paused. How much damage control are we looking at? Roman pushed Elias's files across the desk. Read it yourself. I want your preliminary assessment in an hour. While Calvin reviewed the evidence, Roman made 3 calls. The first was to his banker, instructing him to quietly monitor all accounts and prepare for potential emergency measures. The second was to his attorney, scheduling an urgent meeting for the following morning. The third was to an unlisted number. Terry? Roman Ferguson. Remember that favor you owe me? I'm calling it in. FBI agent Terry Contreras had been investigating construction fraud for over a decade. 3 years ago, Roman's testimony had helped him bring down a corrupt union boss who'd been demanding kickbacks from developers. What do you need? Terry asked without preamble. Information on Jared Cantu. Focus on his projects in other cities, particularly ones involving family-owned construction companies. Any particular reason? Let's call it due diligence on my future son-in-law. A pause on the line. Give me 48 hours. You have 24. My daughter's rehearsal dinner is tomorrow night. After ending the call, Roman turned back to Calvin, who had finished reviewing the files. The security chief's usually impassive expression showed traces of concern. This goes deeper than Highland Towers, Calvin said, turning his laptop to show Roman a complex diagram of financial transactions. They've been setting this up for months. Mrs. Ferguson has been transferring company documents to offshore servers, project specs, client lists, bid strategies. Everything needed for a competitor to undercut us? Show me. For the next 2 hours, Calvin laid out a pattern of deception that would have impressed a master chess player. Brenda had used her position as Roman's wife to access sensitive information, which she passed to Jared. He, in turn, used it to position his various shell companies for maximum advantage. The wedding is their deadline, Calvin explained, pulling up a calendar. They've scheduled meetings with major investors during the reception. While everyone's celebrating, they'll be orchestrating a takeover of Ferguson Construction. And my daughter? Where does she fit in their plans? Calvin hesitated before pulling up a series of text messages between Brenda and Jared. Kara's too much like her father, too principled. Once we have control, we'll ease her into a ceremonial role. Keep her busy with small projects while we handle the real business. Jared. She'll understand eventually. Roman's old-fashioned values are holding the company back. We're doing this for the future. Brenda. Just keep playing the devoted mother until after the wedding. Once the papers are signed, it won't matter how she feels. Jared. Roman read the messages twice, his expression hardening with each word. When he spoke, his voice carried the same tone he used when ordering demolitions. Tell me about this secondary phone. Calvin pulled up another file. Purchased 3 months ago under a fake name. She keeps it in her private safe at home, but it connects to our neighborhood cell tower every night between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Clone it. Sir, that would require. I don't care what it requires. I want every message, every photo, every contact. And I want them before the rehearsal dinner. Calvin nodded, already typing commands into his laptop. What about Mr. Cantu's devices? Everything. And Calvin? I want surveillance on both of them. Every meeting, every phone call, every email. I need to know their next move before they make it. Calvin's fingers flew over his keyboard. Already on it. I've activated the security protocols we designed for corporate espionage. Every device on our network is being monitored. What about Highland Towers? The site security cameras have been recording everything. Calvin pulled up multiple video feeds showing different angles of the construction site, including their private meetings in the model units. Roman watched one such recording, his expression carved from stone as his wife and future son-in-law embraced in what should have been a showcase kitchen. Save everything. Multiple copies. Secure locations. Of course. Calvin hesitated before continuing. Sir, there's something else you should see. He pulled up another series of text messages, these from earlier that morning. Getting nervous about Fox. He's been asking too many questions about the material invoices. Jared, don't worry. I'll talk to Roman about replacing him. Suggest someone more cooperative. Brenda, better hurry. The rehearsal dinner's tomorrow, and we need everything in place for the reception meetings. Jared, just stick to the plan. Roman trusts me completely. That's always been his weakness. Brenda. Roman's hands clenched into fists, his knuckles white against his dark suit. They're planning to remove Elias. It gets worse, Calvin said, scrolling to more recent messages. They've already contacted several of your major clients, suggesting that Ferguson Construction might be experiencing leadership transitions soon. They're laying groundwork to shift contracts to Cantu Development after the takeover. Roman stood and walked to his office window, looking out at the Chicago skyline he'd helped shape. Several of his buildings stood as monuments to his principles, each one built with integrity, without shortcuts or compromises. Calvin, I want you to do something else for me. Contact Judge Parks. Your honor society friend from college? The same. Tell him I need an urgent meeting. Tonight. Calvin nodded, understanding the implications. Judge Randolph Parks handled many of Chicago's high-profile corporate cases. More importantly, he had the authority to expedite certain legal processes when necessary. What should I tell him? Tell him it's about protecting my company and my daughter. He'll understand. As Calvin began packing up his equipment, Roman returned to his desk and picked up the photo of Kara's graduation day. She stood between him and Brenda, her smile radiant with achievement and promise. One more thing, Roman said as Calvin reached the door. I want you to quietly contact Mercedes Kramer at the Tribune. Calvin turned back, eyebrows raised. Mercedes Kramer was known for her explosive exposés on corruption in Chicago's construction industry. Are you sure, sir? Once she's involved, I know exactly what it means. Roman's voice was cold with certainty. Tell her I have a story she might be interested in, but not until I give the signal. After Calvin left, Roman began methodically organizing Elias's evidence into separate files. One for the FBI, one for his attorneys, one for Judge Parks, and one for the moment when everything would come crashing down. His phone buzzed with a text from Brenda, finalizing details with the wedding planner. Jared had wonderful ideas for the ceremony. Can't wait for you to see everything tomorrow night. Roman deleted the message without responding. Let them think their plan was working. Let them believe he remained blind to their betrayal. They learned soon enough that trust, once broken, became a weapon in the hands of a man who'd built his empire on unshakable principles. He opened his desk drawer and removed a small recorder, the kind lawyers used to document depositions. Tomorrow night's rehearsal dinner would have quite a few unofficial attendees, federal agents posing as waiters, surveillance experts disguised as event staff, and his own security team strategically placed throughout the venue. But for now, Roman Ferguson, the man known for his ruthless honesty, would do something he'd never done in his professional life. He would pretend. He would smile at his wife's touch, congratulate his future son-in-law, and raise toasts to their happiness. Because the most important lesson he'd learned in construction was this. Before you could demolish something rotten at its core, you had to make sure all your supports were in place. And Roman Ferguson had never failed to complete a demolition. The morning sun reflected off Highland Tower's glass facade as Roman Ferguson's black Bentley pulled into his reserved parking space. The half-completed luxury development stood as a monument to betrayal, every floor hiding evidence of fraud, every model unit tainted by deception. Good morning, Mr. Ferguson, Terry Contreras said, stepping out from behind a concrete pillar. The FBI agent's casual attire and tablet marked him as just another construction consultant, exactly as planned. Roman adjusted his Italian silk tie. Walk with me. They entered the building through a service entrance, avoiding the morning crew. In a makeshift office overlooking the construction site, Roman activated the signal jammer Calvin had installed. Tell me. Terry placed his tablet on the dusty desk. Jared Cantu isn't just a fraudster, he's a professional con artist targeting family-owned construction companies. We've identified similar schemes in Boston, Seattle, and Miami. Show me. The agent pulled up a series of photographs. 3 years ago, he was James Canton, engaged to Catherine Maxwell, heir to Maxwell Construction. 2 years before that, Jeremy Cantrell, dating Patricia Henderson of Henderson Development. The pattern? Always the same. He approaches with innovative sustainable projects, gains trust through small successful developments, then orchestrates a takeover attempt through the family's weak link, usually targeting wives or daughters who have access to company information. Roman studied the photos. Different names, different cities, but the same practice smile. The previous victims? Too embarrassed to press charges. Family businesses. Reputation matters more than justice. Terry's expression hardened. Until now, we've been building a RICO case, but we needed someone willing to go on record. You have your witness. Roman's voice carried the finality of a signed contract. But we do this my way. Mr. Ferguson, I understand your position, but... No. Roman turned to face the agent fully. You've spent 3 years chasing him. I'm offering you everything you need for a conviction, evidence, witnesses, documented proof of criminal conspiracy. In return, you follow my timeline. Terry studied the businessman's expression. He'd worked with wealthy victims before, but Roman Ferguson was different. There was no hint of wounded pride or emotional vulnerability, just pure, calculated determination. The rehearsal dinner will proceed exactly as planned. Roman pulled out his phone, showing Terry a seating chart. My security team has identified all their contacts. The hotel surveillance system has been upgraded. Every waiter, valet, and staff member will be one of yours. And your daughter will learn the truth from me, not from a federal raid. Terry nodded slowly. What about Mrs. Ferguson? Roman's expression didn't change, but his grip on the phone tightened. Focus on Cantu. I'll handle my wife. The agent pulled up another file. We've traced the offshore accounts. Your wife has been systematically transferring company data and funds for months. The evidence suggests. I know exactly what my wife has done. Roman's tone made Terry glance up sharply. You'll have your arrests, Agent Contreras. But first, I want them to feel completely secure. I want them surrounded by their co-conspirators, champagne in hand, believing they've won, and then I'll show them what happens to people who mistake principles for weakness. Terry had interviewed countless victims of financial fraud. He'd seen anger, grief, denial, but never this cold, methodical approach to destruction. This isn't just about justice for you, is it? Roman turned to look out at Highland Towers, his daughter's wedding gift, transformed into a monument to betrayal. When I started in construction, I learned that demolition is just as important as building. The key is to identify the structural weak points, place the charges precisely, and let gravity do the work. He turned back to Terry. I've spent the last week feeding them exactly what they wanted to see. A trusting husband, a proud father, a successful businessman ready for retirement. They're so confident in their plan that they won't see the truth until it's too late. And what truth is that? Roman's smile never reached his eyes. That they built their entire scheme on a foundation of sand, and I'm about to shift the ground beneath them. The rest of the morning passed in precise coordination. Terry's team memorized the hotel layout, synchronized communications, and reviewed surveillance positions. Roman provided detailed profiles of every expected guest, marking those who were likely involved in the fraud. At noon, his phone buzzed with a text from Brenda. Everything's perfect for tonight. Jared's so excited to have everyone together. He says you're the father he never had. Roman read the message twice, remembering similar texts from previous nights, each one now revealed as calculated manipulation. He composed a warm, enthusiastic response, playing his role perfectly. Another message arrived, this one from Calvin. Secondary phone cloned. You need to see these messages. Send everything to my private server, Roman replied. He turned back to Terry. Are your people ready? In position by 6. We'll coordinate through Calvin's security team. Good. Roman straightened his tie. Another gift from Brenda, he realized with grim amusement. Remember, no move until I give the signal. I want them to have their moment in the spotlight before the lights go out. As Terry left through the service entrance, Roman's phone buzzed again. A message from Kara. Dad, thank you for everything. For accepting Jared, for the Highland Towers project, for being the most honest man I know. I love you. For a moment, his mask slipped, revealing the depth of pain beneath. Then it was gone, replaced by the expression that had earned him his reputation in Chicago's ruthless construction industry. He had 7 hours until the rehearsal dinner. 7 hours to ensure every detail was perfect, every trap set, every escape route blocked. 7 hours before he showed his wife and future son-in-law exactly why Chicago's developers called him ruthlessly honest. Tonight, that ruthlessness would serve a different purpose. Not for profit or business advantage, but for something far more personal. Justice served cold, precise, and absolutely final. The Four Seasons Grand Ballroom had been transformed into a showcase of elegance and wealth. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in ivory silk, each centerpiece a careful arrangement of white roses and silver accents, all chosen by Brenda, each element now revealed as another prop in her elaborate deception. Roman stood near the entrance, playing the role of proud father as Chicago's elite filed past. Calvin's voice murmured in his nearly invisible earpiece, confirming each arrival. Table 7, northwest corner. Michael Chun, possible co-investor in Cantu's schemes. Main entrance, Jessica Walsh, one of Mrs. Ferguson's regular lunch companions. Phone records show multiple calls to offshore numbers. Service entrance clear. Agent Contreras' team in position. Brenda appeared at his side, resplendent in a designer gown that cost more than some of their employees made in a year. Darling, you should greet the Hendersons. They're considering investing in Jared's next project. Of course, dear. Roman placed his hand on the small of her back, feeling her slight tension at his touch. Was she remembering similar moments with Jared? Or was she calculating how many more times she'd have to endure her husband's affection before their plan succeeded? Across the room, Jared worked the crowd with practiced charm. Roman watched him move from group to group, each conversation a carefully choreographed performance. The young man's sustainable construction pitch had fooled everyone, including Roman himself, until Elias exposed the truth. Mr. Ferguson, Jared approached with that million-dollar smile. I was just telling the Stevensons about Highland Tower's innovative green technology. Were you? Roman matched his future son-in-law's enthusiasm perfectly. The same technology you showcased in Boston? Or was it Seattle? For a fraction of a second, uncertainty flickered across Jared's face. Then his smile returned, slightly forced. Chicago's project is unique. We're breaking new ground here. That we are. Roman raised his glass. To new beginnings. Jared relaxed visibly, missing the cold calculation in his future father-in-law's eyes. I can't thank you enough for your trust, sir. Partnering with Ferguson Construction, becoming part of your family. It's a dream come true. Family is everything, Roman agreed, watching Brenda slip something into her evening bag. A USB drive, exactly as predicted. Speaking of which, where's my daughter? Here, Dad. Kara appeared, radiant in her pre-wedding glow. She hugged him tightly, and Roman had to steel himself against the wave of protective fury that threatened to break his carefully maintained facade. Everything's perfect, she whispered. Mom and Jared have thought of everything. Yes, Roman said softly. They certainly have. The evening progressed according to plan. Dinner was served by Terry's agents, each one positioned to monitor specific tables. Calvin's team maintained surveillance while appearing to be regular security staff. Through his earpiece, Roman tracked every movement, every conversation, every damning interaction. Mrs. Ferguson heading to ladies' room, USB drive in hand. Target meeting confirmed. She's passed the drive to Mr. Chun. Surveillance footage secured. Chain of custody maintained. During the main course, Jared stood for his speech. Roman watched his wife beam with pride. Not for her daughter, he now knew, but for her co-conspirator's performance. When I first met Kara, Jared began, I knew I'd found something special, but I never imagined I'd also find a second father in Roman Ferguson, a man whose principles and integrity have set the standard in Chicago's construction industry. The irony might have been amusing if it weren't so calculated. Roman thought of the evidence in his office safe, the forged certifications, the fraudulent contracts, the documented pattern of deception across multiple cities. To Roman, Jared raised his glass, who welcomed me into his family and his company with open arms. Your trust means everything to me. The room echoed with applause. Roman stood, playing his part in their carefully scripted drama. But as he moved toward the microphone, he caught Brenda's eye. For a moment, he saw past her practiced smile to the calculation beneath. Did she feel any remorse? Any hint of guilt for betraying 28 years of marriage? Calvin's voice came through the earpiece. USB drive confirmed. Complete database of client information, project specifications, and bid strategies. Mr. Chun has already forwarded it to 3 separate accounts. Roman reached the microphone, aware of every eye in the room. His wife and future son-in-law watched with barely concealed anticipation, no doubt expecting another warm welcome, another demonstration of his trusting nature. Marriage, he began, making eye contact with Brenda, is built on trust. She smiled back, clearly believing this was another of his famously honest speeches about principles and integrity. When that trust is broken, he continued, everything crumbles. He nodded to Calvin, who pressed a button on his phone. The ballroom's presentation screens flickered to life, showing security footage from the hotel stairwell, footage captured just 10 minutes earlier. The image was crystal clear, Brenda and Jared in an intimate embrace, hastily discussing their plans to handle a potential whistleblower's threat. The silence that fell over the room was absolute. Kara's scream shattered the silence like breaking glass. That's today. She's wearing the same dress. The young architect lunged forward, grabbing the microphone from her father's hand. Her next words cut through the stunned murmurs of Chicago's elite. Since we're all sharing vows, Mom, why don't you tell Dad about your special bond with my fiancé? Tell him how you've been helping with wedding plans and hotel rooms. I found your lingerie in his car. Brenda's face drained of color. Jared stepped forward, hands raised in placation. Kara, sweetheart, let me explain. Explain? Kara's laugh held no humor. Explain how you seduced my mother while planning our wedding? Or explain how you've been stealing from my father's company? Roman remained at the podium, his expression carved from granite as he watched the scene unfold. He'd known this moment was coming, had orchestrated every detail, but nothing could have prepared him for the raw pain in his daughter's voice. Brenda tried to reach for Kara. Darling, please, don't touch me. Kara recoiled. How long? How long have you been sleeping with my fiancé? The room had become a theater of shock and scandal. Chicago's business elite watched with horrified fascination as the drama played out before them. Some were already reaching for their phones, no doubt eager to share the spectacular implosion of the year's most anticipated wedding. Roman raised his hand, and the screens changed again. This time, they displayed a series of damning documents, forged certifications, fraudulent contracts, evidence of systematic theft and deception. Perhaps, Roman's voice cut through the chaos like a steel blade. We should discuss the real purpose of tonight's gathering. He turned to address the assembled guests, many of whom were potential investors in Jared's schemes. You were all invited here for a very specific reason. Not to celebrate a wedding, but to witness a business transaction. A hostile takeover attempt orchestrated by my wife and her lover. Jared's practiced charm crumbled. Sir, these accusations are supported by extensive evidence, Roman continued, his tone unchanged. Evidence that has already been provided to the relevant authorities. Brenda stepped forward, her society mask cracking. Roman, whatever Elias told you. Elias? Roman's laugh held no warmth. Oh, no, my dear. You revealed everything yourself. Every late-night phone call, every secret meeting, every document you thought you'd hidden so carefully. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? That I wouldn't protect what's mine? He gestured to Calvin, who distributed folders to specific guests. For those of you who've been approached about investing in Cantu Development's innovative projects, you'll find detailed documentation of similar schemes in Boston, Seattle, and Miami. Different names, different companies, but always the same pattern. Jared's eyes darted toward the exits, where hotel security, actually federal agents, stood waiting. His hand moved toward his phone. Looking for this? Roman held up a sleek device. A perfect clone of your cell phone, courtesy of my security team. Every message, every contact, every piece of evidence you thought you destroyed. All preserved and documented. Brenda's society polish finally shattered completely. You can't do this. We have rights. Roman's voice could have frozen flame. Like my right to trust my wife of 28 years? Like Kara's right to believe in her fiancé's love? Or perhaps you mean your right to steal from my company while mocking my principles behind my back. He nodded to the screens again, where their text messages now displayed in damning detail. Roman's precious principles make him blind. Brenda. After the wedding, Ferguson Construction gets new management. More progressive. More profitable. Jared. His trust is his weakness. We'll use that against him. Brenda. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Several guests hurriedly distanced themselves from Brenda and Jared, no doubt realizing how close they'd come to investing in their fraudulent schemes. Dr. Lauren Sutton, Kara's best friend, wrapped a protective arm around the sobbing bride-to-be. Roman had arranged for her presence specifically for this moment, knowing his daughter would need professional support when everything unraveled. "You planned this," Jared accused, his charm replaced by desperate anger. "You set us up." "No," Roman corrected coldly. "I merely gave you exactly what you wanted, my complete trust. You did the rest yourselves. Every fraudulent document, every secret meeting, every betrayal. Those were your choices." He turned to address the room again. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the dramatic ending to our evening. Please feel free to stay and enjoy the champagne. I believe my wife and her companion have some meetings with federal agents that can't be postponed." On cue, Terry Contreras stepped forward, badge displayed. "Mr. Cantu, Mrs. Ferguson, I'm afraid we need to discuss some irregularities in your business practices." Roman watched dispassionately as his wife's careful plans crumbled around her. She'd thought him blind, had counted on his principles making him weak. Now she would learn that those same principles, when turned to revenge, made him absolutely ruthless. Kara's sobs had quieted to hiccups under Dr. Sutton's care. Roman moved to his daughter's side, his expression softening for the first time that evening. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I had to let you see the truth for yourself." Kara looked up at him, her makeup streaked but her eyes clearing. "Did you know? Before tonight?"
Yes.
"No point in lying now. I discovered everything last week. I needed time to gather evidence, to make sure they couldn't escape the consequences of their actions." His daughter straightened, Ferguson's strength showing through her grief. "Good. Make them pay, Dad. Make them pay for everything." Roman watched as Terry's agents led Brenda and Jared away. His wife turned at the last moment, her expression a mix of fury and fear. She finally understood what Chicago's business community had known for years. Roman Ferguson's principles weren't a weakness to be exploited, but the foundation of his strength. The evening wasn't over. There would be statements to make, evidence to process, a scandal to manage. But Roman had achieved his primary goal. His wife and her lover had been exposed, their schemes revealed, their carefully constructed facade shattered beyond repair. They had mistaken his honesty for naivete, his principles for weakness. Now they would learn the price of that miscalculation, one carefully documented piece of evidence at a time. Federal agents swarmed the Four Seasons Grand Ballroom with military precision. Agent Terry Contreras directed his team through hand signals, their movements practiced and efficient. The elegant rehearsal dinner had transformed into a carefully orchestrated sting operation. Jared Cantu yanked his phone from his pocket, fingers frantically tapping the screen. "Delete, delete, delete," he muttered, desperation replacing his usual charm. "Problem with your phone, Mr. Cantu?" Roman's voice carried across the chaos. He held up an identical device. "Perhaps you'd prefer this one? The clone we've been monitoring for the past week?" Brenda reached for her own phone, but an agent smoothly intercepted her. "Mrs. Ferguson, all communications are being monitored. I suggest you refrain from warning your associates." "Associates?" Brenda's society polish cracked. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Roman, tell them this is a misunderstanding." Roman turned to Agent Contreras. "Show her." The FBI agent produced a tablet, displaying a complex web of financial transactions. "Mrs. Ferguson, we've traced your offshore accounts. Singapore, Cayman Islands, Switzerland. Quite the international portfolio you've built with stolen company data." "Stolen?" Brenda attempted indignation. "I'm the owner's wife. I have every right to sell proprietary information to competitors." Roman interjected. "To transfer classified project specifications to offshore servers? To conspire with my daughter's fiancé to orchestrate a hostile takeover." Kara sat at a nearby table, Dr. Lauren Sutton's arm around her shoulders. The psychiatrist monitored her friend's reactions, professional training overlaying personal concern. "I trusted you." Kara's voice trembled. "Both of you. While you were planning your schemes, I was choosing wedding flowers and writing vows." Jared stepped toward her. "Baby, please, don't." Kara recoiled. "Don't call me that. Don't pretend you ever cared." "Miss Ferguson," Terry intervened, "we'll need your statement about the lingerie you found." "Statement?" Brenda's eyes widened. Kara, darling, you can't testify against your own mother. Roman's laugh held no humor. Still trying to manipulate her? Even now? He turned to his daughter. Tell them, Kara. Tell them exactly how you discovered their affair. Kara straightened, architect's precision replacing emotional turmoil. 3 days ago, I went to drop off some wedding planning files at Jared's office. His secretary said he was at a site meeting, so I left them in his car. I had a spare key. She took a steadying breath. That's when I found Mom's lingerie in the glove compartment. Her initials were on the label, BKF Brenda Kennedy Ferguson. And you didn't confront them immediately? Terry asked. No. Kara's expression hardened. I went to Dad instead. Showed him the evidence. That's when he told me everything. The fraud, the schemes, the planned takeover. Roman placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. I needed you to see the truth for yourself. All of it. Mr. Cantu. Terry's voice shifted to official authority. We have documentation of similar schemes in Boston, Seattle, and Miami. Care to explain how many wealthy families' daughters you've targeted? Jared's charm evaporated completely. I want my lawyer. Of course. Roman gestured to a distinguished man in the corner. Mr. Friedman, would you like to share what we found in Mr. Cantu's other identities? Damon Friedman, Roman's lead counsel, stepped forward with a thick folder. James Canton, Jeremy Cantrell, Jason Cantwell, quite the collection of aliases. Each one engaged to a different construction heiress, each engagement ending in attempted corporate theft. You can't prove any of that, Jared snarled. Actually, Terry produced a warrant. Judge Parks has already authorized full access to all your accounts and devices. The evidence is quite comprehensive. Brenda's desperation turned to fury. You planned this entire evening. Set us up like pieces on a chessboard. No, my dear. Roman's voice carried decades of accumulated power. You set yourselves up. Every fraudulent document, every secret meeting, every betrayal. Those were your choices. I simply made sure there was an audience for the final act. The other guests watched in fascinated horror as Terry's agents began the formal arrest process. Several of Jared's potential investors hurriedly distanced themselves, no doubt realizing how close they'd come to being drawn into the scheme. Mrs. Ferguson, Terry addressed Brenda, we'll need you to surrender your passport. Your offshore accounts have already been frozen. Frozen? Brenda whirled on Roman. You can't do that. Half of everything is mine. Half of Ferguson Construction, yes. Roman's smile was predatory. But nothing from the shell companies you created. Nothing from the accounts you used for money laundering. Nothing from the profits of your fraud. Calvin appeared with another tablet. Sir, we've confirmed the USB drive Mr. Chun received contained classified bid specifications for the next 5 years of projects. Industrial espionage, Terry noted. That's a federal offense. Brenda's expensive makeup couldn't hide her growing panic. Roman, please. 28 years of merit. 28 years during which you were plotting to destroy everything I built. Roman's voice could have frozen fire. Did you really think I wouldn't protect my legacy? That I would let you and your lover dismantle my life's work? Dr. Sutton guided Kara toward the exit. She needs time to process this, the psychiatrist told Roman quietly. I'll take her home. Roman nodded. Calvin, ensure they have security. Already arranged, sir. The ballroom had nearly emptied, Chicago's elite fleeing the scene of corporate catastrophe. Only the federal agents, legal team, and key players remained. One last thing, Roman addressed his wife and her lover. Mercedes Kramer sends her regards. Her expose on construction industry corruption goes live at midnight. I believe you'll both feature prominently. Jared's face contorted. You ruthless bastard. Ruthless? Roman adjusted his Italian silk tie. No, ruthlessly honest. Isn't that what you always called me, Brenda? You thought it was a weakness. Tonight, you learned it's my greatest strength. He watched dispassionately as Terry's agents led them away. 28 years of marriage, a daughter's trust, his company's reputation. They had tried to steal it all. Now they would learn the price of betraying Roman Ferguson's principles. The evidence was ironclad, the charges comprehensive, the consequences inescapable. He had given them exactly what they wanted, his complete trust, and used that trust to document every aspect of their betrayal. Some would call it cruel. Roman called it justice. Mercedes Kramer sat in her Chicago Tribune office, reviewing the final draft of her exposé. The veteran journalist had covered countless corruption stories, but this one was different. The evidence Roman Ferguson provided painted a picture of sophisticated fraud spanning multiple cities and years. Her phone buzzed with a message from her editor, Ferguson's story getting massive engagement. 3 other construction families have come forward. Mercedes smiled grimly. She'd been investigating Jared Cantu for months, but previous victims had refused to go on record. Now, with Roman Ferguson leading the charge, others found their courage. Her office door opened, and Roman entered, impeccable in his custom suit. "Ms. Kramer, I trust you've had an interesting week." "That's one word for it." She gestured to her screens, displaying various news coverage. "Your wife's TV interview was compelling." They watched the footage together. Brenda Ferguson, perfectly styled despite her circumstances, attempting to paint herself as a victim of manipulation. "I was lonely," Brenda's recorded voice quavered. "Jared understood me in ways Roman never did. His work always came first." "Muted," Roman commanded. Mercedes complied. "She's trying to spin public opinion," the journalist observed. "Playing the neglected wife card. How's that working out?" Mercedes pulled up another screen. "Not well. Our follow-up piece exposed her active role in defrauding multiple companies. The evidence your legal team provided was quite thorough." "Damon Friedman doesn't believe in half measures," Roman replied. "Speaking of evidence, you received the documents about Jared's previous engagements?" "All 3 of them." Mercedes referenced her notes. "Boston, Seattle, Miami, same pattern each time. He charmed his way into wealthy construction families, got engaged to daughters with company access, then orchestrated elaborate fraud schemes. And now those families are willing to testify?" "Once you broke the silence, yes." She studied him carefully. "That was your plan all along, wasn't it? Using your own tragedy to expose the larger pattern?" Roman's expression remained neutral. "I protect what's mine, Ms. Kramer. My company, my daughter, my principles. If that protection helps others find justice, so be it." Speaking of protection, Mercedes pulled up another document. "Tell me about the Ferguson Integrity Initiative." For the first time, genuine interest flickered in Roman's eyes. "The construction industry runs on trust. Contracts matter, but reputation matters more. We need better oversight, stronger safeguards against fraud, and your daughter's involvement?" "Kara's choice. She wants to ensure no other family goes through what we experienced." Mercedes nodded thoughtfully. "She's been working with Dr. Sutton?" "Lauren has been invaluable in helping her process the betrayal." "And the company?" "Stronger than ever." Roman's voice carried absolute certainty. "We've implemented new security protocols, enhanced verification processes for all partnerships. The attempt to destroy us has only made us more resilient. Your wife's legal team is still contesting the asset freeze. Let them." Roman's smile was cold. "Every motion they file gives us another opportunity to present evidence of her crimes. The offshore accounts, the document theft, the conspiracy, it's all documented. Some might call your response excessive. Some haven't spent 30 years building something, only to watch those closest to them try to destroy it." Roman stood. "Will you be attending the charity gala next month? The fraud victims support event?" "Wouldn't miss it." Mercedes gathered her notes. "One last question. Do you ever regret not confronting them privately? Handling it away from the public eye?" Roman's laugh held no humor. "They tried to use my principles against me, believing honesty meant weakness. The public exposure wasn't just revenge, it was justice. Now every potential fraudster knows. Crossing Roman Ferguson has consequences." After he left, Mercedes added one final line to her article. "In Chicago's ruthless construction world, principles aren't just moral guidelines, they're armor against betrayal. And Roman Ferguson's armor, like his buildings, is built to withstand any attack." 1 year after the rehearsal dinner that shattered 3 lives, Roman surveyed the crowd gathered in Ferguson Construction's main conference center. The charity gala for fraud victims had drawn Chicago's business elite, but this time, there were no hidden agendas, no secret schemes. Elias Fox, recently promoted to partner, approached with a tablet. Final numbers from Highland Towers, sir. Despite the delays from last year's events, we're ahead of schedule and under budget. Honest construction, Roman noted with satisfaction. It works every time. Mr. Ferguson. A young architect hurried over, genuine enthusiasm lighting his face. The sustainability upgrades you suggested for the East Wing are brilliant. The energy savings alone. Save the technical details for my daughter, James, Roman interrupted, but his tone held unexpected warmth. Kara's the architect in the family. As if summoned, Kara appeared at James's side. The past year had transformed her from betrayed bride to confident businesswoman. Dad, the foundation board is ready for your speech. Roman studied his daughter, noting the strength that had replaced vulnerability. Weekly sessions with Dr. Sutton had helped her process the trauma, but it was her own resilience that truly healed her. How's the affordable housing project progressing? He asked. On track. Kara's pride was evident. We're proving sustainable construction doesn't require fraud or shortcuts, just good design and honest work. The mention of fraud brought unspoken memories. Brenda and Jared's appeals had been denied last week, Judge Park citing the overwhelming evidence of their crimes. They faced years in federal prison, their attempts to paint themselves as victims thoroughly debunked by Mercedes Kramer's relentless reporting. Roman took the podium, facing the gathered crowd. Many were former victims of similar schemes, their stories exposed in the wake of his own family's scandal. Others were industry leaders implementing the Ferguson Integrity Initiative's oversight protocols. A year ago, he began. Many of us learned painful lessons about trust and betrayal. We discovered that the greatest threats often come from those closest to us. Some called my response to that betrayal ruthless. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Everyone knew the story, how Roman Ferguson had orchestrated the public exposure of his wife and future son-in-law's crimes. But principles without consequences are just words. Trust without verification is just vulnerability. We build our structures on solid foundations not because we're paranoid, but because we understand reality. He gestured to the presentation screen, displaying the Ferguson Integrity Initiative's latest results. In 1 year, we've helped expose 12 major fraud schemes. We've implemented verification protocols that have saved companies millions. We've transformed personal betrayal into industry-wide reform. His eyes found Kara in the crowd, standing confident beside James. Not the wedding portrait he'd once imagined, but something stronger, a legacy built on honest foundations. Tonight, we honor those who chose truth over comfort. Elias Fox, whose integrity began this journey. Agent Contreras, whose dedication ensured justice. Mercedes Kramer, whose reporting exposed the wider pattern of corruption. Roman's voice carried the same ruthless certainty that had made him Chicago's premier developer. Some say business is just business, that principles have no place in profits. They're wrong. Integrity isn't a weakness to be exploited. It's a foundation to build upon. Sometimes, that foundation requires clearing away rot, no matter how painful the process. Later that night, in his office overlooking the city, Roman reviewed plans for his next project. A photo of Kara at the affordable housing groundbreaking ceremony sat on his desk. Not the wedding portrait that never happened, but an image of genuine achievement. The price of betrayal had been high. A marriage destroyed, a wedding canceled, a family fractured. But from those ruins, something stronger had emerged. His company thrived, his daughter had found genuine love, and his reputation for ruthless honesty had become a standard for the industry. Chicago's skyline glittered through his office window, each building a testament to different principles. Some cut corners, some played politics, some bowed to corruption. But Ferguson Construction stood apart, its projects built on the same unbending principles as its founder. Roman Ferguson had lost a wife, but saved his legacy. In the end, that was all that mattered. Because principles, like steel beams, had to be unbending to support the weight they carried. Epilogue. 10 years later, the maximum security women's correctional facility in Dwight, Illinois operated like any well-managed institution. with strict routines and clear hierarchies. In the communal area, Brenda Kennedy Ferguson, now inmate number 247813, sorted through her limited possessions, her once manicured hands roughened by prison work detail. Mail call, Ferguson, the guard announced, dropping an envelope on her bunk. Brenda recognized the law firm's letterhead immediately. Another appeal denied. After 10 years, she'd exhausted every legal avenue for early release. The evidence Roman had gathered proved too comprehensive, too damning to overcome. She unfolded the Chicago Tribune article someone had enclosed with the legal documents. Ferguson Construction announces $2 billion expansion, the headline proclaimed. The photo showed Roman at a groundbreaking ceremony, still commanding and distinguished at 64. Beside him stood Cara, now Ferguson Construction's chief innovation officer, and her husband James Mitchell, the company's lead sustainability architect. Another photo caught her eye, Roman receiving an Industry Lifetime Achievement Award, with Elias Fox, now president of operations, standing proudly beside him. The article mentioned the Ferguson Integrity Initiative's role in transforming construction industry standards nationwide. Brenda's hands trembled as she read about her ex-husband's continued success. The divorce had been finalized while she awaited trial, Roman's legal team ensuring she received nothing beyond her prison commissary account. Her attempted defense, claiming manipulation by Jared, had collapsed under the weight of evidence showing her active participation in the fraud. 300 miles away, in the federal penitentiary at Terre Haute, Indiana, Jared Cantu faced his own daily reminders of failure. His cellmate called out, "Hey Cantu, you're in the paper again." The article detailed yet another construction fraud scheme exposed by the Ferguson Integrity Initiative's oversight protocols. The reporters never failed to mention Jared's case as the catalyst that launched the reform movement. 10 years of incarceration had stripped away Jared's charismatic facade, revealing the calculating criminal beneath. His multiple appeals had failed, each attempt bringing new evidence to light. Other families he'd targeted came forward, encouraged by Roman's example, until his pattern of fraud stretched back 15 years. Meanwhile, in Chicago's prestigious Gold Coast neighborhood, Mercedes Kramer put the finishing touches on her latest book, Foundations of Fraud: How One Family's Betrayal Reformed an Industry. The veteran journalist had parlayed her coverage of the Ferguson scandal into a successful career exposing white-collar crime. Her phone buzzed with a message from her publisher. Roman Ferguson agreed to write the foreword. Meeting him next week to discuss. Mercedes smiled, remembering how that first explosive story had transformed not just careers, but an entire industry. The Ferguson Integrity Initiative's protocols had become the gold standard for construction projects nationwide. Companies that didn't meet their standards found themselves frozen out of major contracts. Across town, in her corner office overlooking Michigan Avenue, Dr. Lauren Sutton reviewed her notes from the morning's therapy session. She'd specialized in helping fraud victims rebuild their lives, her experience with Cara Ferguson informing her approach to similar cases. A framed photo on her desk showed Cara's family at last year's Christmas party: Roman, Cara, James, and their twin daughters, Faith and Honesty. The names had been James's idea, a testament to the principles that had brought him and Cara together. At Ferguson Construction's headquarters, Calvin Atkins, now chief of corporate security, monitored the company's state-of-the-art protection systems. The protocols he developed after the betrayal had been adopted by corporations worldwide. His team regularly conducted training sessions for other companies, teaching them to recognize the warning signs of internal fraud. "Calvin," Roman's voice came through the intercom, "is everything ready for the board meeting?" "Yes, sir. Agent Contreras, Director Contreras, will present the FBI's latest findings on industry fraud prevention." Terry Contreras had risen through the ranks, his successful prosecution of the Ferguson case launching his career in white-collar crime. The partnership between the FBI and the Ferguson Integrity Initiative had become a model for public-private cooperation. In his spacious office, Roman Ferguson reviewed the quarterly reports. Ferguson Construction had tripled in size over the past decade, its reputation for integrity attracting clients who valued trust over mere profits. A knock at his door preceded Cara's entrance. At 42, she carried herself with the confidence of a woman who had transformed personal pain into professional strength. "Dad," The Mitchell Foundation Board approved our proposal. We're launching the scholarship program for children of fraud victims next semester. Roman nodded with approval. The Mitchell Foundation, created by Cara and James, helped families rebuild after experiencing financial fraud. They worked closely with Dr. Sutton, providing both practical and emotional support. "How are the girls?" Roman asked, gesturing to a photo of his granddaughters on his desk. Faith made the honor roll again. Honesty's leading her debate team. Cara smiled. They're fascinated by the story of how James and I met during the Highland Towers investigation. We've had some interesting discussions about ethics and consequences, and their questions about their grandmother. Cara's expression hardened slightly. They know the truth. We agreed they're old enough to understand actions have consequences, no matter who takes them. Roman studied the city skyline, where Ferguson Construction's projects stood as monuments to unwavering principles. Highland Towers, completed despite the scandal, had become their flagship sustainable development. The model unit where Brenda and Jared had conducted their affair was now a training center for construction fraud prevention. Judge Parks called, Roman mentioned. Jared's latest appeal was denied. Apparently, he tried claiming mental duress from your mother's manipulation. Cara laughed without humor. Still trying to blame each other after all these years. Has Mom tried contacting you again? Her letters go straight to legal. Roman's voice carried the same unbending resolve that had made him legendary in Chicago's business world. She made her choice 10 years ago. She can live with the consequences. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Ferguson, the documentary crew is here for the 20th anniversary retrospective on the Ferguson Integrity Initiative. Send them up. Roman stood, adjusting his tie. Still precise, still commanding, still ruthlessly honest. Cara, would you join me? They'll want to hear from both of us. As they prepared to meet the film crew, Roman reflected on the decades since the betrayal. His wife and her lover had assumed his principles made him weak, vulnerable to manipulation. Instead, those principles had become the foundation of an empire built on trust and accountability. Brenda and Jared had tried to destroy what he'd built. Instead, their betrayal had made it stronger. The price they paid served as a warning to others. Principles weren't guidelines to be bent, but steel beams that held firm against any storm. In her prison cell, Brenda stared at the newspaper photo of her ex-husband and daughter. She had traded 28 years of marriage and her relationship with Cara for a scheme that failed spectacularly. Her daughter wouldn't even accept her calls. Her grandchildren knew her only as a cautionary tale. And Roman? He had emerged stronger, more respected, more successful than ever. His reputation for ruthless honesty had become his greatest asset, while she and Jared served as constant reminders of the cost of betrayal. The article mentioned that Ferguson Construction would soon break ground on its 100th major project since the scandal. The company's motto, displayed prominently on their headquarters building, served as both promise and warning. Built on principles, secured by trust. For Roman Ferguson, that trust had to be absolute. Those who betrayed it learned, as Brenda and Jared had, that his principles weren't a weakness to be exploited, but a foundation strong enough to bear the weight of consequences. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.